JJ Kinahan, we're looking at first quarter earnings. Now, financials had a great performance in the first quarter. You think the earnings are going to hold up?
I do think the earnings are going to hold up. And actually, one of the things I think as important is the statements that go forward are going to be positive ones. I think that's what Wall Street's really looking for right now. You know, we saw that letter from Jamie Dimon a couple of weeks ago. It had some very positive things to say. We'll see as earnings start this week if that continues from all the major banks. Personally, I believe that it is going to be a positive because the housing market is stabilized. And people, you know, let's throw out the unemployment that came out last week as an anomaly until we see a trend that way. The trend overall is positive. If people are employed, the housing market's solid. As Mr. Bernanke himself says, those are the two things he looks at. Well, the banks can do well in those situations. If they get the interest rates a little bit higher, then they can actually maybe even get a spread on some loans. And overall, I think the financials are sitting in a pretty good situation. Obviously, the market, if you look at what's happened so far in 2012, is a believer in that also.
All right. Now, Apple had a fantastic first quarter, really took the NASDAQ along with it. Now, do you think Apple's going to hit that $1,000 price target, which we heard from one or two analysts on the street?
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like in the last 3 weeks, every analyst who's ever talked about Apple has come out with an opinion on it. So many of them, as you said, have been positive. You know, we had somebody yesterday came out with a neutral. You'd have thought he said, oh my God, the world is over. The one thing that I find interesting is every one of them thinks they're going to have a blowout quarter. I tend to agree with it. It seems like they become a market unto themselves. Apple, you know, if the trend really is your friend, there doesn't seem to be a reason to fade it. If you are a retail customer and you hold some of the stock, maybe you want to lighten up, write some calls against it, whatever it may be. But I think to go out there and just sell it right now and say it's definitely going down would be a silly thing to do.
Finally, volume at the exchange, you know, the NASDAQ, it's extremely low. That said, we've seen volatility as measured by the VIX really step up. It was about 14 in March. Now it's around 19, flirting with 20. What's your view on volatility here? Are we going to get a little bit more?
I think as you head into earnings, it's natural that volatility increases. Also, let's remember what happened last weekend. People didn't want to buy volatility going into a holiday weekend. So we come back on Monday. We had the jobs report on Friday. People, except those who traded futures, couldn't react to it. Now they have to buy their protection. So I think we're going to see some more situations like this as we head toward late spring, early summer, where you're tending to get vacation seasons, et cetera. People are afraid to buy volatility going into events. After events, they're going to come for it. You may see volatility have many more spikes throughout this year as so many people got burned from the VIX going from 26 down to that 14-ish level where they were like, all right, it's 24, I got to buy some. 22, I got to buy some. 20, I got to buy some. Finally at 18, they're like, I got to puke this. So I think one of the expectations I have for volatility for the rest of the year is we're going to see more 10 to 15% spike days. And when we're not spiking, it sells off.
This market is
stock pickers market.
Stocks have rallied this year.
We're coming into a Monday where we're going to